My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. The greatest among you must be your servant. Anyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and anyone who humbles himself will be exalted. These are challenging words that you speak to us today in the Gospel, Jesus, but words that we want to take to heart now in this time of prayer. To humble ourselves, not only in the sight of other people, but to humble ourselves before you, in order that we might be raised up, in order that we might come closer to you. We might say it simply like that. Not that we're going to be raised up and exalted to sit in some kind of throne or pedestal, but to raise us up closer to heaven, to raise us up closer to your heart. Now, when I think about this beautiful thing that you tell us in the Gospel today, it often makes me think of something that happened in my hometown a good few years ago now. It was around the time whenever the government had brought in the smoking ban. And of course, inevitably, these things mean that people have to adapt and change to the habit of a lifetime. And one day, this big shot businessman went into a local cafe, and after he had had his tea, maybe he was having a business meeting, I don't know, he took out a big cigarette and he lit it up. Now, because people were a little bit more conscious of the fact that smoking was actually banned inside public buildings and inside restaurants, the like, it kind of attracted all the attention. But I think he was the kind of person that kind of liked that anyway. And since he was a bit of a big shot, let's say not too many people, including the person whom he was having that meeting with, was keen to tell him that he couldn't do that. But this waitress who was working in that cafe, kind of a part of a after-school job, well, she knew the rule, and she didn't really know who he was anyway, and she didn't care. And she went up and she said to him, "Excuse me, sir, but you can't smoke in here." Well, he looked at her over the top of his glasses, and he said, "Do you know who I am?" To which the girl turned round, facing the rest of the people in the restaurant, clapped her hands together and said, "Excuse me, would anybody happen to know who this man is? Because he doesn't seem to know himself." Now, I love that, because how the mighty have fallen through the simple words of somebody whom he had, to be quite frank, disregarded. And it reminds me of those beautiful words spoken by your mother, Lord Jesus, at the time of the Magnificat, when she said, "You have cast the mighty from their thrones and raised up the lowly." Well, today we want to be lowly so that we might be raised up. But if there is any trace of arrogance in us, Lord, maybe you will cast that out of us. Maybe you will help us by giving us a subtle hint. Maybe somebody will tell us today or in these next few days, maybe you need to calm down a bit. Maybe you just need to come back down to earth. Help us, Lord Jesus, in order that we can be more humble before others, in order that we might become closer to you. There's a lovely song, I like it very much. It's called The Servant's Song. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I like it very much because it's very simple and because it's a very easy to sing tune. I'm not going to sing it right now, but you can easily find it if you look it up. The Servant's Song. Now you'll know it instantly, and you can sing it in your head as soon as I say it. The words of the first verse. "Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I might have the grace to let you be my servant too." Now, it's actually the second two lines that strike me always. Pray that I might have the grace to let you be my servant too. And the first time I heard that, I thought, well, not much of a grace to let somebody be your servant, to let them serve you. But I have to say I got a very powerful reminder of what the true spirit of this song, in other words, what it is to be a servant to Christ and allow others to serve us with that same spirit, in a retreat house that I really like to go to in the country in Ireland. It's a beautiful place of prayer and tranquility, and it helps me very much to pray and to come closer to you, Jesus. And one of the things that always strikes me there is the extreme care which the staff who look after the house take in all different aspects. whether it's the care that they show for the little chapel there to keep it immaculately clean and to prepare very well for Mass. And I have to say, it always helps me exceptionally well to pray the Mass well when I see everything so beautifully laid out and so neat and so lovingly prepared. But it's not just in the oratory, it's in all of the rooms of the house. It's the way in which they look after the bedrooms, the way in which they tidy up, they clean the bathrooms, the way in which they serve the food, which is spectacular, to be quite frank. And all those things, in terms of the environment, certainly help me, and I'm sure help countless other people to pray and to come closer to you, Jesus. But it's the care and the concern that those who look after the house put into the house by being a servant of you, Jesus, but also serving me, their brother, in order to help me come closer to you. And unless we have the humility to actually accept the care and concern that somebody else wants to give to us as an extension of their love for you, Jesus, then we'll never learn that lesson. If we don't see somebody else being a servant and treating them with immense dignity and refinement, then we'll never learn what it is to be a servant ourselves. And since that's a key object of the Christian life, in order to serve you, Jesus, to do your will and not ours, well, we need sometimes just to look at other examples of that in other people's life. And one of the greatest servant of the servants of God was a man called Pius X, the Pope, whose feast day we happily celebrate today. He became Pope in 1903 at the age of 68 years of age. He was born into a very poor family in the north of Italy. He was the second out of 10 very poor children. But he worked very hard in his school, and he worked very hard in everything that he had to do. And he dedicated all of those tasks with a great amount of love. And he rose through the ranks of the diocese, becoming bishop of another diocese, eventually becoming the Cardinal Patriarch of Venice. Very beautiful and exalted titles, but it didn't really mean anything to him in a worldly sense. He was truly humbled by every task that the Church invited him to take. When he was elected Pope in 1903, it was again a task that he took on with the same humility with which he had faced so many other things. And one thing that we probably have to really thank him for that impacts our daily life is the fact that he wanted people to receive you, Jesus, in Holy Communion more frequently. He wanted children to make their Holy Communion at an earlier age, as soon as they were able to understand that we don't receive bread and wine at Mass, but we receive your body, blood, soul, and divinity, and that we would receive Holy Communion on a regular basis. Now, why would he want to institute a practice which, to be quite frank, at the time in the Church was not that common? People often held off maybe going to Holy Communion just once a year, not feeling themselves worthy in order to receive communion. Of course, he insisted that we have to put in the same amount of preparation in order to receive you, Jesus, in the Eucharist. But he was a man who had a deep and profound sense that he really needed you in his own personal life, that he needed the strength and the consolation that only you can give us in the Eucharist. He needed you, Jesus. And he understood that if he needed you, then it was the same for everybody else in the Church. And he wanted to make people aware of the fact that what we really need, more than anything else, is you, Jesus. Sometimes we ask ourselves how we can serve God, how we can serve the Church. Well, we only really know how we can serve God and serve the Church when we know, first of all, that we need you, Jesus. That you have to be the first port of call in our life. That we have to put you at the absolute centre of everything that we do, and that everything we do ought to be leading up to receiving you in the Eucharist, but also receiving you into our homes, receiving you into the work that we do, into our study, whatever it is, we need you. Now, when you got this meditation and saw the title, The Pope Needs Jesus, you might have been a bit shocked by that. There's absolutely nothing shocking in that title. The Pope does need Jesus. You need Jesus. I need Jesus. We all need you, Jesus. And that is the profound gift that the papacy of Pope Pius X is for the Church in our modern times. That we can receive you, Jesus, on a much more regular basis because we know we need you. Mary, we turn to you as we do so frequently throughout the day because we need your help too. Help us to be more like Pius X and to recognize our deep need of your Son, Jesus. I give you thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me during this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.